What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning into this month's recap. This is the July trading recap. Pretty much a really rough month for me. The market was pretty much changing. It was pretty bullish, so being short biased was a little bit more tough than usual, and just a lot of the trend breaks were rebought and things like that. So it was a little bit tough. I didn't do very well. I didn't make very much. I still made money. It was still a green month, but definitely not as big as my 8.3K month last month. So this month I finished at $2,000.65, and that's after the borrow fees. So that's net. And as you can see, my personal stats, I didn't update the last last week or week and a half of trading because I started trading really poorly, and I kind of gave up and I didn't feel like doing that. So I don't have all the stats. However, for what I do have, basically my win rate is about 60%. And if you take a look, my average winner is $140, 10% gain. Average loser $80, 5% loss. So it's like almost like 1-to-1, so not very good. And especially compared to previous months. So there were a few good trades that I took. A lot of stuff was just kind of more of just taking parts of the move and not really a whole bunch to show for. It's mostly just going to go over a lot of the mistakes that I did and what I'm going to be doing to improve on those things and try to avoid for the following months. And one huge issue that I have in my trading, and which I'm going to be going over as well. But yeah, if you guys want to take a look, $2,000, basically like two $100 days, and then same with the losses. So 101, not anything special. So the first very consistent mistake that I keep making in terms of trading and my discipline is on ATHE, and this was on this run here that I had at the end of June, and basically, if we go into, intraday, basically I was trying to play this, so the first day gapped and crapped, second day gapped up, so this is just like a short squeeze, and probably not something I should be playing, at least not in this kind of range, but basically I shorted right into the support, thinking that it was going to break down. I think I had like a $1.70 entry, and then I got squeezed twice on it into the close. And I was in pretty big size, so instead of cutting it and just restarting higher and getting a really good entry to swing it, I held, and I went for a wild ride because this went up to, $2.05 from $1.70. That's a big percent swing, and eventually, overnight, yes, I covered and I was right, but emotionally, this should not be happening because this takes a big toll on you, and this is too much mental capital, and you're too much mental and equity capital stuck into a trade that shouldn't be stuck in, and takes you away from other things. Plus, it's a lot of stress. So, and I've done this before, but this kind of hit it home that, don't short support. If I miss the move, if this did crack here and just kept going, then so be it. Then I missed the move. I should have been there here earlier anyway, so it's my own fault. So don't short support. That's kind of the first lesson that I'm taking into this following month is because, every single time that I short support, it always seems to be a squeeze right after, So the other pretty big mistake I made was on this IMRN ticker here on the 20th. If we go into intraday, I'll show you what we're talking about. So that was just the daily. And honestly, same kind of pattern, where it's like a gapper, the following day failed, and the next day just gap squeezed pre-market and then failed again. So same kind of thing. But this one was a lot worse because I play this as a gap and crap. Now, this technically is not terrible because it's gone from gap from low sixes all the way up to $15-16. So it's a big move on pre-market. So, and taking this kind of trade here into when it starts to fail isn't that bad either. You just have to cut it if you're wrong. But what I did is I basically, actually, let me see if I have this chart. It looks like the 20th. I do. So here's my trade on IMRN. So short, basically, again, support, pre-market, thinking it's going to fail. And it starts to work a little bit, and especially into the open, you can see it failing. But I definitely did not cut anything at all. And I went for a crazy, crazy ride. And I held. And this is one of my biggest issues. Once the loss starts to get bigger, I have a very, very difficult time cutting. So this started just going nuts, and I just cut into this fade on a day. I'm just like, you know what, I want to get out as close to break even as possible. I think I lost $200 or $300 on this one, so not the end of the world, but this is the worst thing you can possibly do. And going into a different trade, I'll show you why it's so bad to do that. So this is a huge issue that I have, just not being disciplined. And I'll show you one more trade, and then I'm going to kind of talk about like what I'm going to do to avoid this. So here's the daily on Kodak. So this candle here is not legit. This is just a misprint, but these are. So basically it squeezed from like $2, and it went all the way to $60, and now it's back down to about $13. So here is how I played that one. Now this is probably the worst trade of my career ever, not in terms of dollar amount, but in terms of how I traded it. So first of all, this is a lower float, 10 mil float or something. I think maybe even less. I don't know if SCT is right. In a big market cap, but pre-market, on both days, this had insane amount of volume. So if you just look at this day here, like 400,000 volume, and every single candle. So this was a very, very large gapper, and with a lot of volume. I think this day traded like 300 million or something. So huge volume, especially on a stock that's like $10. That's a lot of volume. Anyway, and then next day I was looking, okay, failed follow through, short backside of the move, right? So here's how I traded it. So it was here, it gapped up, was hanging around $13. And so when it started to kind of fail, I took a starter here somewhere. Then it squeezed up all the way to 14.5. I'm like, crap, like that sucks. I should have cut it but I didn't. But I was only in starter, so I added here into this, little bounce right here. But it ended up going, and guess what? I didn't cut again like usual. And by the time it was open, it was already at. So by the time market open, it was already at $18.5. So. And I'm in from probably an average of like 14.5 maybe. So terrible average, squeezed $4, and then it squeezes to 21, and I am panicking, right? Gets halted, it drops, and I'm like, okay, all right, I made it through the squeeze, and it's gonna fail and come down. What I didn't realize is like just how insane the volume is. We get here in these first candles, we get like 6 million, like 7 million. That's insane amount of volume. To think that this is over is ridiculous. And so this comes down, I get a chance to cover at 17 for, definitely a huge loss. But it gave me an exit, and I didn't take it. I wanted to either be break even or make money on it. So I was in probably, I think I was in 130 shares at that point. And as you can see here, just kept going and just halt after halt. I was stubborn and just didn't. The higher it went, the harder it got to cut, because I was already down quite a lot. I was, with my account size, I was in, very tiny. So I, even if it went to $100, I wouldn't have blown up, but I would have taken a massive loss. And I rode this all the way up to 60. I think I was down $6,500 on my small starter small starter position. And I was very lucky. I got a 26 cover. Basically, I just marketed covered as soon as it opened up here. And basically got the very low end of that panic. So yeah, and then I did actually end up making some of this money back here in this end of day. I scalped it and I made like a few $100 back, but I ended up losing $800 in this one, making back about 300 or 200 on it. So not the worst loss, but definitely the worst squeeze I've ever been in. Basically from like what, $15 average all the way up to 60. That's like 400% squeeze or something. Just definitely not acceptable and not something I ever want to do again. But so basically, my goal is to never have this happen again. And I put a max loss of $500 in my account, so it'll take me out of all my positions and restrict me from trading for the rest of the day. So that should save me in very similar situations if I can't get myself to cut. And I want to put in like hard stops at like ultimate risk. So basically, if I'm like risking off a certain level, I'll put a hard stop there and then let the trade work, so that I don't actually have to do it at least in the meantime until I can work on my discipline and be able to cut by myself. The reason it's kind of a iffy weighted trade is because like sometimes it'll hit that level and come right back down, so you want to give it like a little bit of time to play around and see if over and under kind of mindset when it comes to risk. But I need to be safe, and the max loss on my account should definitely help and help avoid these type of situations. So definitely the most stressful trade I've ever been in, and will do everything I possibly can to avoid this type of trade. Not something I should have been in the first place, but it happens, and I'm just going to learn from it and make sure that this never happens again. But August seems to be starting off well, and hopefully that we can get good trades going. I'm already doing much better than I did in July, so we'll see what happens. And my goal is to 5 to 10K in August. That would be ideal. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next month.